It was here. It had finally arrived. I grasped the white padded envelope in my hands, ready to rip into the potentially life-changing gift within. My new Black Dragon Yoni Egg set from Kegel. I'd never used a Yoni Egg. I'd heard of them from various places, but I always had this inner resistance. This sense of, I don't need stuff like that. I'm not broken. And it's true. Many of us feel broken, especially when dealing with issues relating to our reproductive and sexual system. Definitely with our libido. But we aren't broken. Most of us simply haven't had someone advocate and educate us on our bodies. My current struggle: bladder urge, pain, burning though no infection was present, trouble orgasming like I was usually able to, burning pain when my lover penetrated me, even when it was just with a finger or two, sciatic and low back pain. Sometimes my tailbone just ached for no apparent reason. Doctors said, "You're fine. This just happens to some people." My mind, body, and professional training said, "No, I'm not fine." My inner mad scientist kicked in, and I drew on my knowledge as a pelvic floor specialist and sexual educator to do my own pelvic floor assessment once I knew there wasn't an infection to blame. I know. I preach regular self-care and vaginal assessments to all of my clients. And yet, here I am, not taking my own advice. Sure enough, my whole vaginal canal was super tight and painful. I'd neglected my body's warning signs and care for far too long. So that brought me to my current moment. I decided to take the Yoni Egg plunge. Now, most women think these tools are for making your vagina tight and firm, but that's not actually the case. And beliefs like that can have women cause more problems with their pelvic health. Like any other muscle in the body, you've got to have strong muscle fibers that can powerfully contract and relax. Supple muscles that have full blood flow and nerve sensitivity for proper communication throughout the system. Obviously, I didn't have that right now. I cut open my envelope and out dropped a lovely black box tied with a pink ribbon bow. Not your usual packaging. And it made me feel like I was giving myself a gift, not another task to handle. I sat in my cozy window seat, sun shining in through the windows, and untied the ribbon to discover a black satin bag, the telltale clink of my obsidian gemstones coming from within its silky cover. They spilled into my hand, cold and smooth, and I could immediately imagine that sensation down below as well. Self-healing might not be a drag after all, huh? Well, I'd better do this right then. I set water on the boil so I could cleanse my gemstones, turned on some of my favorite slow, sexy music, lit candles, and after pouring the now heated water over my gemstones, I slipped into the shower. I let my body relax under the steam, closing my eyes and feeling the caress of billowing vapor raising up, kissing areas the water wasn't yet touching. I breathed a deep breath in, holding it for a few seconds and bringing all my attention into the sensation of water drops hitting my skin. The sensation went from just a sprinkling of stream, hot water, to what felt like a million fingertips massaging over my body in heated bliss. Could every shower feel this magical if I were to be so present, so aware? I suspected it would. I let my breath out with a moan, imagining all the stress coming out with it and swirling down the drain, far away from my evening of magic. Over and over, I let my breath fill me and cleanse me and release. My mind beginning to slow down and come more fully into the moment. I was ready. Slipping out of the shower, I wrapped myself in my towel, grabbed a bottle of CBD massage oil, my clean and still warm yoni eggs, and I laid out on my bed. I set the gemstones on my stomach and poured a generous amount of oil from the bottle, drizzling it like syrup over my body, not caring if any sank into the towel below. That's what it was there for. The cool oil on my shower-heated skin was a pleasurable contrast, and I couldn't help the hitch in my breathing as it hit me before quickly warming as well. I set the bottle aside and used the palms of both hands to begin gently spreading the oil all over my vulva, my thighs, lower abdomen, and up to my breasts with slow, sweeping strokes, dragging them out as long as possible before beginning again. Letting my head sink back into the pillows, closing my eyes, and trying to feel with more than just my fingers, to feel with my body instead. It wasn't immediate, and it definitely took concentration, but I was able to gradually feel my focus shifting. I could feel more than just a physical touch on my skin. I could feel a thick swirling inside as well, like a slow, lazy tornado that went from my pussy all the way up above my head. Ah, energy swirls. I noticed that with each inhale, the tornado swelled and spun faster, wider. And with each exhale, it contracted back in and slowed, almost stopped completely until my next breath began. I reached for my yoni egg, selecting the largest of the set, and used it to trace spirals all over my body like my hands had done, bringing it up and between my breasts, feeling the slick glide of volcanic glass stirring my own inner fire. Swirling it first around one breast and then the other, realizing I was drawing the infinity symbol. Each sweep seemed to open me up to more and more sensation. My nipples were tingling points of energy and awareness that flowered out over my entire chest. And this surprised me, because my nipples had been pretty insensitive for a while now. My breathing felt like it neither ended nor began, almost like it was a cycle all its own, in yet out at the same time. And if I stopped breathing, it felt like I wouldn't need to breathe again. My body buzzing with vibrancy I hadn't experienced in a while. What the fuck was going to happen when I actually put the yoni egg in? Guess it was time to find out. I knew penetration had been uncomfortable recently, so I snuggled my yoni egg back into my navel and used my fingers to slip between my pussy lips first, feeling that familiar sense of awe at how fucking silky that skin is. It never gets old to me, and I take my time gently massaging my vulva with the same slow, long, sensual strokes I'd used before, loving on my full lips with pleasure. After a few moments, I slipped a finger in about an inch into my opening and stroked an ever-widening circle inward, feeling for pain and tenderness as I deepened my self-exploration. There was a lot of numbness on the surface of my vaginal canal, and a good bit of pressure on my upward wall between my pubic bone and belly button where my bladder sits. It wasn't pleasant at all. I felt like I had to pee, but I knew I shouldn't have to as I'd done so before beginning. So I breathed a few cycles and let my fingers explore other walls and depths of my pussy. I found my left side stirring with pleasurable tingles. But I felt the cold numbness on my entire right side. If I pressed back into the right wall, it even burned with nerve irritation. Ugh, I thought. This is worse than I anticipated. But I can work with it. I had my finger all the way in, and even without contracting, I could feel my vaginal walls hugging my finger on all sides. Doing a Kegel contraction, I felt that pussy hug tighten, and the uncomfortable urge of pressure and fullness in my bladder activated yet again. Interesting. I refrained from judging my body and its reactions, opting to simply remain curious, compassionate, and observant to it. Not always an easy task, but a worthy one, because that bullshit judgment never helps anyway. When I released my Kegel, I only felt a slight muscle release as response. Not what I'm supposed to feel. What I'm supposed to feel is a deep contraction and an equally deep release. Strong hug, strong relax. My pussy was practically paralyzed with tension. No wonder everything hurt and I couldn't stop feeling like I needed to pee. My poor bladder, it had no room to expand and contract either. This would also explain the orgasmic loss. If nerves can't communicate, blood can't flow, muscles can't move, pleasure is almost impossible, and so is proper body function. I am not broken, I whisper to myself with relief instead of frustration this time. My self-massage shifting from one of clinical exploration to tender caress. I'm not broken, just deeply neglected and stressed the fuck out. I let it sink in like a soothing balm for my inner fears and insecurities about my pussy, my pleasure, my womanhood. My peace deepened, that soft massage blending with freer breathing as I felt tight muscles finally beginning to release. Some gradually softened, others shook, twitched, and almost seemed to tremble as though they didn't fully trust my coaxing fingers. And as they eventually relaxed, I felt like I had a second heartbeat in my pussy. Rich blood flow had me so wet, and heat followed that heartbeat, only to be chased up by light flutters of orgasmic sensation. I reached for my yoni eggs and decided to go for the next size down, wanting to make sure I wasn't triggering any further discomfort with the largest egg. Like I had with my fingers, I traced the gemstone all over and between my pussy lips. loving that smooth, cool glass glide every bit as much as I thought I would. And when I brought it to my vaginal opening, I let it sink in slowly, not pushing, just supporting it there. I rotated it in a circle or two and then about jumped when it suddenly vanished, sinking into my pussy like she was a starving creature and that yoni egg her life-saving elixir. I slipped my finger in behind it and found it about 2 inches up, but I knew I couldn't lose it. Not only did it have a string for easy retrieval, but our pussies aren't endless black holes into oblivion, though our feminine energy can be. I relaxed my whole body and closed my eyes again, trying to see if I could feel my yoni egg inside me. I felt the coolness of the stone radiating, and if I contracted, I could feel it pressing in on my bladder, but nothing otherwise. I tried not to be disappointed, but I knew realistically that it'd take time for my body to recover sensitivity and responsiveness. These aren't magical jelly beans for your vagina after all. They have to be worked with. And so I did. I spent the next little while contracting my pelvic floor muscles around my yoni egg and fully relaxing. I kept my finger inside as well, because I couldn't really tell if my muscles were relaxing otherwise. And relaxation was the goal of this experience. Relaxation and reconnection to my body. I really let myself feel each movement, each contraction, each release. And gradually that tornado of energy returned. I felt the accompanying emotion it brought with it as well. Sorrow, anger, self-loathing, shame, defeat. And under all the heavy shit, there was a steady stream of hope. None of it needed defining. None of it needed a story attached to it. It was just a witnessing of all the clusterfuckery that had been sitting in my deep darkness, awaiting the moment when it'd be allowed movement and freedom again. I felt my throat closing, my breath beginning to pant through my chest, my lower lip trembling in that way it always does before ugly crying begins. And I let it happen. I lay spread wide on my bed, music and candlelight dancing around me, waves of emotion and energy swirling through me, and tears flowing with shameless and grateful rivers of healing and release. And as I let myself fully come undone, the heat in my pussy magnified, my vaginal muscles beginning to dance a dance all their own, contracting and releasing as spontaneous and emotion-filled orgasms softly rippled up my body as though it was a blessing of love. My body moved, curling into a relaxed ball at my side as the soft tingles and pulses continued dancing like water drops on the surface of a pond. Oh, if I were a cat, I'd have been purring after that. My whole being was a wild mix of totally exhausted, yet wildly charged up and alive. There was this deep unfurling of strength inside me. A tender strength, though. One that would lovingly kick your ass when you need it, but would also always have your back, taking the heavy hits for your softer side as the ups and downs of life ebbed and flowed. This was magic. This acceptance of my body's invitation to fully inhabit it and be present for all its needs, for all its healing, for all its pleasure. I knew I'd found one of the most powerful tools a woman could have. One I'd love to open your mind and potential to woman. Not simply a yoni egg, but what we're invited to do with a yoni egg. Using it as a tool to delve into our body in a way we almost never do. Yes, it can be erotic and orgasmic if we use it that way. But it can also be super emotional, allowing us to see our body in a whole new light. To spend time with it outside of hygiene and sex. To learn how to feel from the inside out in all the ways you can interpret and imagine that. What would your body tell you if you took the time to connect with it in this way? Are you ready to find out? Well, this is your official invitation. Thank you for joining me for this erotica short story of my own experience with a yoni egg. If you'd like to get a yoni egg of your own, I highly recommend Kegel. And if you'd like to continue getting some more inspiration and stories like this, join me on Patreon. You'll find the necessary links below. Thank you, my loves, and I look forward to talking with you next time.